Delta versus Momoshiki is kind of weird. What's going on, guys? TG or ThunderGod here, and today we are doing one of the more divisive topics in the Boruto fandom. People cannot seem to find any sort of common consensus on this matchup, and I'm gonna be honest, I like that. I was rubbing my hands there. I'm not too sure why. But anyway, today we're going to be looking at Delta and fused Momoshiki. That's the variation of Momoshiki I think is more relevant to this discussion and has the better arguments for this discussion. But yeah, enough chit chat. Let's get straight into the video. Now, Delta is the first character I'm going to be talking about and definitely the more controversial of the two in terms of scaling. A lot of this stemming from how you view her interaction or fight against Naruto. Either thinking that A, Naruto is massively sandbagging, or B, Naruto is having a tough fight against Delta where she actually does scale to him in certain aspects. The first portion of Naruto vs Delta isn't too relevant, at least not at this moment, where we see that Naruto is holding back and trying to get Delta to reveal intel to him, which she sees right through, followed by Naruto remarking that he will be going all out now as well. The confusion comes in when Kawaki notes that Naruto told him and the other kids to stay out of the fight due to them being in the way of him going all out, with it further being noted that Naruto in this state of going all out is the one who's in control, to the extent that he's able to lead Delta around in such a way that her attacks don't go flying towards the kids. Even post Kawaki injury, where Naruto is angered and overall more bloodlusted, he's still able to get tagged by Delta, with the two trading blows repeatedly. This taking the form of mutual strikes or more taijutsu flurries. Very similar to, I guess you could say, Android 17 versus Piccolo and how it's just a tennis match of blows. It is clear, however, that Delta is actually on par with Naruto in terms of taijutsu, as even going past Kawaki's statement, Naruto getting mad and progressing in the fight in a more enraged state should be evidence of this, to the point that Naruto himself actually begins to fatigue. Delta herself notes this with Naruto visibly huffing and puffing. The fight ending with Naruto overloading Delta's chakra absorption and slamming a Rasengan on her. Naruto also just falling to the ground after the fight, leading into the idea, again, he was exerting himself pretty heavily. Naruto himself also notes that it might have been easier if he were just killing her, but he made an extra effort to keep her alive. I think this is just in reference to the Rasengan and how Naruto could have either powered it up further or used a stronger jutsu in the Rasen Shuriken in order to defeat Delta. I do not believe it's in reference to the entirety of the fight or Naruto is purposely holding back his punches as to not knock Delta's head off. Actually, I am of the opinion that Naruto is exerting himself, at least in taijutsu, to the extent that he's close to his full power or the full power that he can output when trading blows with somebody physically, as even after Kawaki's statement in a more enraged state, he is able to trade blows with Delta continuously. Now, I don't want people to misconstrue this. I feel like a lot of people get twisted on this fight because they see an opponent who is on par with Naruto in terms of taijutsu and equate that to being above Naruto's maximum output or max power. I don't think that's the case, nor do I think the two are mutually exclusive. I think Naruto can be going all out in terms of taijutsu here, and Delta can still be weaker than, let's say, his Kurama avatar, which I will touch on more later in the video. I will end the Delta section with this. I do think there is a solid foundation for her scaling to Naruto, at least physically, in terms of taijutsu. The anime doesn't help this. Delta just looks terrible, but it's not as if this is just an unfounded interpretation, as we have external statements kind of making a similar case. Delta being a formidable foe for Naruto is supported with chapter statements that know pre and post Delta fight that she was a formidable foe, or the Weekly Shonen Jump statement that predicts that the other car members would be able to give Naruto a hard fought battle like Delta had, the car members part not being relevant, more so Delta being the benchmark for them giving the Hokage a hard fought battle. The statement using Delta as a benchmark in predicting the abilities of the other car members. I don't want to get into every nook and cranny because I do want to talk about some more supplementary points when they become more relevant in this discussion. The external statements plus a more enraged Naruto still trading blows with Delta and having those taijutsu flurries does lead into the idea, at least for me, that his all-out statements weren't just something to be noted at face value, with this taking precedent, at least in my mind, over the statements made by Kawaki. This is in mainly taijutsu, however, and it's not the last time we see taijutsu feats from Delta. For example, Shikamaru is able to dodge a kick from Delta, which, depending on how you view Shikamaru, could operate as either a feat for him or an anti-feat for Delta. This also just assumes the newer Delta model is a similar strength tier to the original. Something that might implicate this is Amato's statement that notes the newer Delta model will be a powerful ally to Konoha, but it still can be a little vague. I also don't don't think this falls super outside what Shikamaru is capable of, considering his shadow possession speed. He's able to keep pace and actually hold down Kinshiki, so I wouldn't put this beyond Shikamaru. It's just a little vague in reference to this other Delta model. There is more to touch on for Delta, but I've been talking about her for a minute. I want to shift the combo over to Momoshiki. The version of Naruto that Momoshiki fights is a variation that has some amount of chakra drain. The anime directly noting that Naruto had half of his chakra drained, although it's my experience that people do nitpick cross-referencing the different canons of Boruto to suit their stance, so I will just kind of look at it holistically and reference the anime and manga when the differences arise. The real meat of the discussion comes from fused Momoshiki versus Naruto, where we see base Naruto is able to block and react to Momoshiki for a short period of time, powering up into 6-pad Sage mode and proceeding to knock Momoshiki with an elbow into kick combo. This is kind of a weird situation, especially from the manga standpoint, since we do see earlier on Momoshiki has no issues dealing with base Naruto's speed, as not only is this his Momoshiki before he absorbs or eats Kinshiki, but this is also Naruto before any sort of chakra drain from Momoshiki himself. So the possibility of Momoshiki holding back, at least during these first few taijutsu clashes, you could extend this logic to Naruto as well, although I think it makes less sense in his case since his main objective is to get Boruto away from Momoshiki, so him holding back taijutsu wise wouldn't really make sense. On the metric of comparing their taijutsu performance, it's pretty simple. We have Delta fighting against full power Naruto and Momoshiki fighting against some nerfed variation. This is where partially looking at the different variations of this fight does make a huge difference, as base Naruto wasn't nearly as relevant or able to contend nearly as strong in the anime against fused Momoshiki compared to the manga, the constant being that his base form is able to throw hands for a short time period in both iterations. So it creates a weird situation to where, are we just looking at this discussion as a holistic view across all mediums, or are we just strictly looking at the manga, which I do think impacts parts of this discussion. Momoshiki's highest stock doesn't really come from his taijutsu though. I actually think his higher stocks are just in his ninjutsu abilities, one of which being Momoshiki's Monkey Rock, which is kind of interesting to discuss since it drastically depends on the manga or anime in terms of how strong it is. In the manga, the Monkey Rock is actually a lot less impressive. Naruto's Kurama avatar is able to react to its punch from a speed perspective, so it isn't outside Naruto's capabilities, more so likely just being stronger than Naruto's Kurama avatar, at least from a lifting strength POV, as that's where he's able to push past Naruto's two-handed block into a chokehold. The only speed feat for the Monkey Rock I could potentially see is the panel while Naruto is blocking the one punch, the other arm is cocked back, with the next panel cutting to Naruto's Kurama avatar getting a chokehold. There's the little I don't know what you're supposed to call it, but there's that little effect they have in manga when a character is just aware of something as it's happening, right above the Kurama avatar head as it's getting grabbed. Considering where the arm placement was before, this kind of does implicate that the Monkey Rock or Golem was moving so fast that Naruto's Kurama avatar didn't know it was being grabbed until it was actually grabbed. Or the other way I would interpret this is that Momoshiki pulled back while Naruto was holding onto his fist and actually chokeholded him, which is kind of something that's showcased in the anime as well. I don't think it really makes sense for this Stone Golem to be an entire speed tier above Naruto when Naruto was previously just shown reacting to it, you know? So in terms of metrics like speed, it doesn't really scale that much to the Kurama avatar, mainly surpassing it in raw strength, at least by the manga continuity. Keep in mind, Naruto is also able to keep Momoshiki's Golem's right hand at bay as well, leading to Sasuke powering up Naruto's Kurama avatar into the majestic attire Susanoo, which is able to outdo the Golem in terms of speed, as he's able to bisect the construct before its arm really is able to change position too much, if at all. In the anime, it's actually reversed. It's the Monkey Rock that reacts to and blocks a punch from the Kurama avatar, then being able to land a punch and choke slam it into the ground. So the anime actually shifts the scaling in Momoshiki's favor in the sense he scales to the Kurama avatar as a whole a lot more confidently. So to some extent, it does depend on how you're viewing Boruto as a whole. There's also the idea, going back to Naruto having his chakra drain, that it directly impacted the Kurama avatar strength-wise. And although we don't know the exact extent of how much Naruto and Sasuke are nerfed into the manga, we do know that the majestic attire Susanoo is regarded as the strongest ninjutsu and is needed to defeat the Monkey Rock. The image in question referring to the majestic attire during this fight. This actually does insinuate even this nerfed version of majestic attire, if you did want to go down that avenue, is above Naruto's full power Kurama avatar, since that was shown quite literally on this same page before this statement was made, with the chapter statement earlier on even remarking Naruto going all out against Momoshiki in the Chunin exams arena. This is all to say, even if you lean into the idea that Naruto's avatar was weakened in the Momoshiki fight, it wouldn't really change the fact that the majestic attire, even if that's in a weakened state during this fight, would still be above full power power Naruto or Sasuke individually with their full power avatars off of this statement, since like we established earlier, Naruto's Kurama avatar is included with this ultimate ninjutsu statement. Nerfed or not doesn't really matter, it just matters that the variation used against Momoshiki would be stronger than Naruto's full power Kurama avatar. That's the bottom line. This is kind of where Momoshiki's Monkey Rock does see its best stock, as it forces Naruto and Sasuke to utilize something stronger than their full power avatars. This is all relevant since the Kurama avatar, like the Susanoo, is actually stronger and faster than Naruto and Sasuke themselves. This being remarked in Sasuke's fight against Danzo, where we see Sasuke is noted to be using the super strong and super fast Susanoo, with the Susanoo's weaponry such as the arrows being so fast that Danzo doesn't even have time to weave hand signs compared to Sasuke's regular combat speed, which he can combat. A similar principle with Naruto's chakra arms in the war, which are also stronger and faster than his physical output. Or a more recent one-to-one that outlines the same thing is that Sasuke, when noting that Jigen has to be taken out and he needs to be taken down here no matter what, goes into his perfect Susanoo, Naruto with his Kurama avatar, and Jigen noting, this is the two of you going all out. This goes back to what I mentioned before and what people have to keep in mind with these discussions. Just because Delta scales to Naruto's taijutsu does not mean she scales to Naruto's Kurama avatar in any capacity. There are other techniques in Momoshiki's arsenal we could touch on, such as the Inukai Taker Uno Mikoto, which is the stone dog dragons that Momoshiki spawns from the ground, which are inevitably able to overwhelm Sasuke. Granted, Sasuke could actually react and cut off 2 of the dragon's heads before being tagged, Momoshiki shooting out 6 total, so they aren't exactly setting the bar too high in terms of speed, not really blitzing Sasuke, but more so overwhelming Sasuke with the sheer number of heads. I think it would play out similarly with Delta in that she should be able to at least react and destroy a couple heads, but would likely be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of them, similar to Sasuke. Even assuming he's nerfed to an unspecified amount due to him opening a portal with his Rinnegan, I don't think it really changes too much, since I don't believe Sasuke hopping through one portal would put him an entire tier below his full power counterpart. Putting aside this jutsu, however, let's remap this discussion for a second. So while I don't disagree with the idea that Naruto is going all out, at least in terms of taijutsu against Delta, we know that's actually not Naruto's maximum output in terms of speed, strength, or techniques. That's his Kurama avatar. Delta having absolutely zero scaling to the Kurama avatar, whereas the Monkey Rock, although contentious, does have some interpretations that can get it to that Kurama avatar level or somewhere near it, which would be above that full power Naruto threshold. Delta doesn't really scale to Naruto's ninjutsu at all. Her extended limbs aren't remotely threatening in a close quarters fight, and Naruto is able to dispatch of them pretty easily with a lava style Rasen Shuriken. Aside from taijutsu, the only thing that's really threatening to Momoshiki are the destructive beams that Delta uses that are specifically designed to counter regenerative properties. Any cells of any body parts that are hit get completely obliterated. Kawaki's artificial body or body parts or the Hokage's healing powers are noted to not be able to repair the damage, or probably can't repair the damage from these destructive beams. It should also be said that this attack is noted to burn a lot of chakra, meaning this isn't something Delta can spam. In the fight against Naruto and Co, we see her fire them a total of 4 times in this confrontation. Naruto himself noting if he can get Delta to fire off a few more shots, she'll probably use enough chakra to get a Rasengan in, likely meaning she'd gradually fatigue in terms of physical movement to the point an opening presents itself. I would stand on the point that it's very unlikely these beams are just too fast for Momoshiki to react to, considering characters like base Kawaki can intercept them from a grounded position, or Naruto being able to react to them from close quarters to the extent he can draw his arm back, form a Rasengan, and push it in front of him to create a shield for the beams. Long range, these beams aren't too threatening. The main way they threaten Momoshiki and the way Delta would have to incorporate them in this fight is in her taijutsu, creating openings after guard breaking the opponent for the destructive beam GG. This operates as a strategy that favors a short-term confrontation due to the extensive chakra drain and lack of surprise after the initial beam. Long-term, it doesn't really accomplish too much. Adversely, on the Momoshiki side, aside from him just overwhelming Delta with this sheer volume of ninjutsu, specifically in the form of his avatar, as Delta would just be able to absorb any and all ninjutsu thrown at her, a similar win con I could see is that he overloads Delta's chakra reserves or her chakra storage as it's housed inside her body, meaning there is a limit. As like we see towards the end of his fight with Boruto, he's able to create large-scale jutsu on a similar level to the Rasengan, at least in size, so if he's able to come to a similar conclusion to Naruto, I think it's just as likely, considering his chakra reserves, that he'd be able to overload Delta. The only hiccup in this win condition for Momoshiki, or this specific technique, is that we only see Momoshiki use it twice. Once in the Chunin Exams Arena, and again against Boruto. Both situations he actually does eat some chakra pills before he unleashes the giant black ball. So it is a little vague if he actually is able to do this in base, or if he does need to eat some of the chakra pills in order to use the technique. I think it could be either or, honestly speaking. We do see he's able to use elemental attacks such as the lightning jutsu that he was about to fire at Naruto and the other Kage when they are caught under the shadow possession, but weaker jutsu like this just wouldn't be that effective in taking down Delta, as she will just be able to react to it and absorb it. An interesting point to kind of go in tandem with Boruto noting the Uchiha style cloaked sword, which is something that was noted in the Boruto database that Boruto enhances his sword style or kenjutsu with chakra, is that Sasuke was actually unable to chop off Momoshiki's head with his blade. This is relevant due to the fact that Sasuke's blade is capable of piercing Naruto's cloak when he actually does have the Kurama head active. While Naruto is off guard here, meaning his durability can be lowered, as we've seen with other points in the series, such as Naruto blocking the Raikage's punch and noting it could do serious damage to him if he doesn't guard it properly. I do think it is a similar case with the Otsutsuki clan, since Ishiki himself was actually taken off guard and left near death by Kaguya, despite the fact that, as we know, Ishiki is massively stronger than Kaguya. This is relevant since Momoshiki is hit directly behind his neck, not guarding the attack while also being preoccupied consuming Kinshiki. So if you did kind of want a 1-to-1 in terms of these characters' lower base levels of durability, Momoshiki also does have higher stock. This assuming that Delta actually scales closer to Naruto in this regard. Even putting aside the idea of Kenjutsu versus blunt force attacks, I do think it is interesting that Momoshiki may actually have some higher arguments in terms of durability if you don't think Naruto actually damaged him or drew blood from his confrontation earlier in their fight. So the way I view this discussion is that, obviously depending on continuity, it changes up, but more often than not, Delta does have higher taijutsu interpretations in that she does scale to a full power Naruto's taijutsu compared to a variation of Naruto that is nerfed to some unspecified extent. If you're going to use the 50% benchmark by the anime, I feel like you might as well use anime feats at that point. Otherwise, like, what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? What are we doing? Compared to Momoshiki, whose higher stock is in his ninjutsu, which he does resort to when pressured by Naruto and Sasuke in terms of taijutsu in their actual fight. I think the bottom line is, do we think full power Naruto's taijutsu is going to be able to kick Naruto or beat up the Kurama avatar from the Momoshiki fight in a similar capacity to Jigen? On top of that, probably not being the case. I don't really see it being provable that Delta would be that strong to where she could one-shot Sasuke's perfect Susanoo or Naruto's Kurama avatar from the Momoshiki fight, or Naruto's taijutsu eclipses those avatars from that encounter. This is more so dependent on Momoshiki's Monkey Rock and the potential scaling avenues to these avatars. If you don't think it does, well, then it's kind of chopped. You have one character who scales to Naruto's physicals and another character who more so eclipses those physicals through use of his arsenal, which a lot of people do ignore in this discussion, which is kind of weird to me since ninjutsu is a big part of Naruto. It's only with the super god tiers in Boruto that ninjutsu just is a non-factor, you know what I'm saying? In which it usually turns into a taijutsu slash kenjutsu slugfest of sorts, partially also due to the fact that a lot of these characters have counters. This is also one of the more, or I guess you could say, less explicit matchups in Boruto, to where we don't really have clear character statements for either side taking a definitive edge. The only thing that I think could be used to interpret this is Kashin Koji was confident he could take down Delta in his base form, with the motto noting that Naruto and Sasuke were the only ones that stand a chance against Ishiki. While this isn't absolute by any means, I do think it's at the very least up for grabs in considering these characters in relation to one another. I think this fight just operates in phases, and you pretty much have to argue that Delta is able to finish off Momoshiki before he's able to start utilizing his vast array of ninjutsu or summon those larger avatars. If you wanted to say Delta can absorb these large masses of rock thrown at her, maybe you want to have the combo be fused Momo versus Delta, taijutsu only, manga only, whatever, man. Do what you want. I'm just here. But let me know what you guys think. Agree, disagree, why, down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoy anything you heard, and I'm gonna get out of here. Bye.